Glad to have you back. Now, President Bola Tinubu's recent signing of the national minimum wage bill into law marks a significant milestone in Nigeria's economic landscape. Amidst the ongoing economic policy reforms, this new legislation sets the national minimum wage at 70,000 naira, a move aimed at addressing the pressing needs of workers facing soaring inflation and rising cost of living. The new law includes provision for regular reviews every 3 years, signaling a proactive approach to adapting to changing economic conditions. Let's get talking now, and I'm being joined by the Managing Director, Chief Business Officer, Optimus by AfroInvest, Mr. Ayodeji Ebo. Thank you so much, Mr. Ebo. It's good to have you join the program. I think you need to unmute yourself. Okay.
I'm not.
Good. I can hear you. Now, finally, the minimum wage has been signed to law. It didn't take as much time. President made it so fast, just like he promised. But let me ask you, really, what does this mean at this time? This is more than 100% of what the civil servants were earning before now. What do you make of this increase and side by side with impact on, of course, inflation?
Okay, thank you very much. So I think the first thing we need to note, while a 70 over 100% increase to 70,000, we also need to know when you look at when the last one was fixed at 30,000, it's almost maybe 8, if I'm not mixing, more than 10 years that we've been around that level. So when you also look at what was the exchange rate as at then, and what is the current rate? Because Nigeria, there's no way we want to dissociate ourselves from measuring things based on FX rates, because we hardly produce anything. And whatever happens to the FX has that direct impact on the things that we use these funds for. So the exchange rate would have depreciated by more than 3-4 times of what's the current amount. Yes, what they have done, I would say, yes, it's a good improvement from where we used to be. But I think that government is also constrained, and that's why I feel it's pegged. So when you look at $70,000, that's around 70,000 naira. That's around $43 per month. You look at look for some jobs in developed climes that are not even very professional. That if you are earning $8 per hour, it means that you can actually earn this $43 in a day in other climes. So when you compare it, what can the 70,000 naira or $43, what can it do for us? It can't do much, given the high inflation rate at 34.12% as at June. And when you look at food inflation at 40.4% as at June, so you would see that there's little that can do for us. But beyond even the increase that is being requested for or being desired, what I think government can also focus so that 70,000 would have more impact is looking at what are those things that Nigerians spend more on. How can we reduce the cost? I always talk about what we pay for inefficiencies. So if I'm going to pay 2 or 3 times what of the cost of a goods to bring something from Kano to Lagos, so you look at it, maybe the cost of the good is 5 million, and I need to use another 5 million to bring it to Lagos. Who is going to pay? So that's 100% increase already on that product. And there also has to be a gain. So how can we begin to increase the efficiencies so that if we're able to move that same item by rail system and the cost of transportation will not be more than 10% of that cost of goods, you would see that the average Nigerian, in terms of purchasing power, would increase. If the item was supposed to cost 100 naira, but because government have provided that environmental infrastructure that will reduce the cost of moving things, and that item costs 60 naira, that same 70,000 will be able to buy more items than if nothing is being done. So I feel that our focus, while it's good that there should also be an increase in the salary of the average Nigerian, there's also a need, a deliberate effort. How can we begin to bring down those inefficiencies, the costs? Even when you look at ports, when they import things, the custom duties, the earlier Mr. Mukhtar, the earlier speaker speaking on custom, the cost that you even pay for some of the items, some of the initiatives of the government, we almost commend for waiving some of those items is commendable because it's also a way to reduce that impact. So we need to review that process and see, can we increase the efficiency within the port system that the cost will also reduce. If we're able to do that, then the purchasing power for the 70,000 will do more, and there will be less clamor for an increase because you're able to do more with this current salary than if nothing is being done. So I think we need to look at it from those two angles. There's a need to focus to bring down the cost of living. If I will summarize it that way, there's a need to bring that cost of living down, which is looking at those inefficiencies and trying to reduce them. That doesn't take away insecurity. Is also a low-hanging fruit that I think it can be solved if the stakeholders meet. If they're able to do that, cultivate more, there's more improvement in food production, cost will come down, prices will normalize, and the suffering of Nigerians would also reduce.
But I'll take you also back to my discussion with my earlier guest, and because that's the top story everywhere now, the planned protest. We've seen fallout of economic policies of government, and many say it's a process that we're going to get there. Like many will say, Rome was not built in a day. What's your understanding of this and the fallout of this protest, if it holds?
Okay, I think that I agree that the protest will disrupt business activities. But what Nigerians are also trying to do is to also make a statement that you need to accelerate the process. If you are working before, let's say you are working, now we need you to run. We need you to speed up such that that impact, that pain that we're going through would be minimized. So, yes, there would be economic disruptions when we quantify even the loss in terms of productivity. That would be done. But I think part of what has led to this is that maybe some of the activities of the government that has been pronounced were not, Nigerians have not begun to see that impact.
Exactly.
So you would, because if you know that, we say you're able to see that silver lining at the end of the tunnel, you see that there's a clear roadmap. This is regarding exchange rates. This is the blueprint of how do we want to improve exports. So guys, you can see that we have on exports, this is, we used to earn $3 billion before, $4 billion. You can see it's now 3.5, it's now 4 billion. You can see the stability in the FX rates. And also you see food production. You can see some of the things we are doing around the rail system. I feel that if that impact is being felt, so, you know, sometimes it's, we used to say that, or I'm fond of saying that sometimes life is unfair. It's about results. So if we are not seeing, they might have been doing, governments must have been doing a lot, right? And as claimed, but life is about the result that actually matters. What's the traction that is being achieved around some of this economic data, around the cost of living, around the standard of living? So it's until it begins to translate into results that it will calm the nerves of the average Nigerian. Because when you look at it, this one is even beyond the average Nigerian. It cuts across everyone because the cost of items that have been increased on a weekly basis, if you ask, things continue to, prices continue to increase. And businesses are also struggling because when you look at the overall impact, if I used to buy 10 tins of milk before, and the price has doubled, then maybe I reduce it to 5. You look at the companies that are producing them, it means that the demand would have also reduced. And those that are working there would also need that the salary should be increased. So there's a limit to which even the salary, because that's the cost of the business, it would impact on it. So you would see that this is really a very complex situation. But the way to begin to solve it is looking at some of the inefficiencies I spoke on earlier, so that we don't, you would see some people that I know is being worked on that for some industry, they pay up to 10 different taxes that is going to different form of government at different level. Is it the transportation that you have different form of taxes? All these things, the person that is moving things from Ogun State to Lagos State, if he's going to pay additional 30% on that cost, on the cost of that item, it is us Nigerians that would bear that cost. It is business. So if I purchase it is 1 million and I have to use 300 or 400,000 to bring it to Lagos, I will have to spread it based on the number of items and also add the cost, the margin for the stress that I've gone through or for me to continue to remain to business. So if we are able to identify some of these things, you don't even need to, once you begin to minimize and reduce those things, after a while, yes, prices are always sticky down, coming down in Nigeria. They are always very sticky. But competition will now begin to set in after a while. When people see that things are stable, then you see some people will begin to drop their prices and will begin to enjoy that stability.
Oh, well, time is fast spent. But before I let you go, let's look at the performance of the market and how all of this has affected trading at the exchange. We see CBN selling FX, trying to defend. And we've seen a bit of stability. I think you alluded to that. But the performance of the stock market is being in red, even in recent times. What do you make of also of that, even as we move into uncertainty of either we'll have a peaceful protest or not?
Okay, thanks. So I think that you would understand that in recent times, because of some of the recent policies on the FX gains that government wants to, that's the windfall tax, and some of the new policies are impacting on share prices of the banks.
Yes.
They control based on sector, the financial service sector controls close to 50% of activities in the stock market. Beyond that, you would also see that at the last MPC meeting, there's been an increase in the MPR to 26.75%. So that has also impacted on yields on fixed income instruments. So, and once you know, it's also, all these things will be a disincentive for investment in the stock market. And that is why we are seeing a bit of also sell-off within that market. But for investors, it's also an opportunity to buy some of those stocks at very cheap prices for the long term. They will not continue to fall. And in terms of their business structure, you also see that as long as they remain in business, while the environment seems very tough, they would also be able to generate income as we progress.
Interesting stuff. I think it's a good way to leave it. I must thank you so much, Mr. Ayodeji Ebo is the Chief Business Officer and Managing Director of Optimus by AfriInvest. Thank you. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Always my pleasure. Thank you for having me.